5 toxic manipulation strategies narcissists use to destroy you slowly. Narcissists are masters of psychological games, weaving subtle manipulations into everyday interactions to gain control over your mind and emotions. Today, let's explore the 5 favorite games they play, each designed to twist your perception, provoke self-doubt, and make you question your own reality. The first and perhaps most deceptive of these games is the act of pretending not to understand. Spend any amount of time on forums about narcissistic abuse, and you'll notice a recurring debate. Is this narcissism or autism? The confusion arises because individuals with narcissistic personality traits often weaponize a kind of false ignorance. They act as though they can't grasp basic morality or social norms, as if they were innocent children unaware of right and wrong. It's a performance, a smokescreen meant to deflect responsibility. When caught doing something deeply hurtful or unethical, they respond with a shrug and an air of confusion. I didn't know that was wrong. But this feigned stupidity rarely holds up under scrutiny. Imagine watching a TV drama together where a character betrays someone's trust. The narcissist will immediately judge the act as immoral and side with the good character. This simple moment exposes the truth. They do know the difference between right and wrong. Their selective confusion is not a lack of understanding but a calculated escape hatch, used whenever moral accountability threatens their self-image. The second game, one they wield with surgical precision, is deflect and attack. When confronted or exposed, the narcissist refuses to absorb blame. Instead, they turn the situation inside out. They attack the very person who dares to call them out. The evidence you bring, no matter how clear, is twisted into an indictment against you. Suddenly, the conversation shifts. You're the problem, you're too harsh, too judgmental, too sensitive. This tactic, often called whataboutism, was once a political strategy used to deflect criticism by saying, "But what about you?" Narcissists have internalized this approach perfectly. If you expose their lie, they bring up one of your flaws, real or imagined, and inflate it until you're the one on the defensive. They might even fabricate an accusation entirely, provoking you into outrage. Once you react emotionally, they point at your response and declare, "See? You're the crazy one." Psychologists refer to this as reactive abuse, a dynamic where the victim's natural emotional reaction to manipulation becomes proof of their supposed instability. It's an infuriating loop designed to make you feel guilty, ashamed, and powerless. The third game is a relentless, looping performance of denial and distraction. The narcissist's favorite defense is a simple one: that didn't happen. If denial alone doesn't erase the evidence, they'll escalate. If it did happen, I didn't mean it. Corner them further, and they'll shift again. You heard me wrong. Each new layer of denial digs deeper into absurdity, until the victim is left exhausted, confused, and questioning their own memory. This tactic doesn't stop at simple contradiction. Alongside denial, the narcissist plants distractions, sudden shifts in topic, emotional triggers, or unrelated accusations, to pull your attention away from the original issue. If they know your vulnerabilities, they'll use them. They'll bring up an old insecurity, a painful memory, or a sensitive subject, steering the conversation toward chaos and away from accountability. It's psychological sleight of hand. While you're busy defending yourself against emotional attacks, the truth quietly slips out of sight. And then comes the fourth game, one of the most insidious, the game of psychic reading. Here, the narcissist assumes the role of omniscient interpreter of your thoughts and emotions. They tell you what you're feeling, what you really meant, what you supposedly did or didn't do, even in situations they weren't present for. It's an attempt to rewrite your inner world and replace it with theirs. This manipulation binds you into their version of reality. They speak with such conviction that you begin to doubt your own perspective. You might start thinking, maybe they do know me better than I know myself. That's exactly what they want. This tactic establishes psychological dominance. It's not enough for them to control your behavior. They want ownership of your mind. Each of these games operates on a single principle: control. By blurring boundaries, distorting truth, and eroding your confidence, the narcissist ensures that you remain trapped in their emotional orbit. Recognizing these tactics for what they are is the first act of liberation. When you can name the game, you stop playing it, and that's when their power begins to unravel. When a narcissist declares, "You don't even believe that," or "I know what you really feel," they're not just dismissing your words, they're erasing your reality. In that instant, rational conversation collapses. You're no longer engaging in an exchange between two adults. You've been demoted to a child whose inner world is being rewritten by someone else. Their insistence that they understand your emotions better than you do is a subtle form of psychological imprisonment. It strips you of the right to define your own thoughts and feelings. For those who grew up in environments where such dynamics were commonplace, this tactic, known as psychic reading, can reopen old wounds. Being told what you think or feel, instead of being asked, can unconsciously transport you back to a childhood marked by emotional invalidation or manipulation. In such moments, it's common to break down, to cry, to rage, to feel as though you're losing control. And tragically, the narcissist seizes on that reaction to label you as unstable. The discussion shifts away from their wrongdoing to your emotional outburst, effectively protecting their facade while deepening your confusion and shame. The fifth game in the narcissist's repertoire is perhaps their most deceptive: reframing. When cornered by undeniable evidence, proof of their lies, their cruelty, or their betrayal, they simply change the story. They twist the entire situation until it's no longer about their behavior but about something deeply personal to you. Suddenly, the issue isn't their deceit. It's your unresolved trauma, your mother, your ex-partner, or your supposed emotional instability. They turn the spotlight onto your vulnerabilities, especially those they know will hurt the most. This reframing works hand in hand with psychic reading. The narcissist uses what they know about your past to construct a narrative that undermines your emotional footing. When you attempt to hold them accountable, they tell you that your reaction isn't genuine, that what's really happening is something entirely different and rooted in your own pain. This relentless twisting of reality is designed to provoke anguish, to make you feel unsteady, guilty, and uncertain about what's true. The more emotionally reactive you become, the more control they gain. If we look closely at these games, the denial, deflection, psychic reading, and reframing, a clear pattern emerges. The goal is never resolution. The narcissist isn't seeking understanding or truth. They're orchestrating emotional chaos. For the person on the receiving end, the emotional landscape is filled with anguish, exhaustion, and exasperation. Every conversation feels like a maze that leads nowhere. You keep hoping for a moment of clarity, but it never arrives because clarity would rob them of power. This brings us to an essential truth about narcissistic dynamics. Despite how self-centered they appear, it's not really about them. As scholar Sam Vaknin once observed, the narcissist's behavior may revolve around their ego, but the relationship itself is about you, specifically your emotional responses. They manipulate not because they care about the narrative, but because they crave the reaction. Your emotions, your anger, your pain, your confusion are their currency. Without your response, the game collapses. So how do you escape this cycle? The first step is a reframe of your own. Recognize that you are not dealing with an emotionally mature adult. Their words are not tools of connection, but weapons of manipulation. They do not argue in good faith, because sincerity would threaten their illusion of control. Therefore, the only winning move is disengagement, not emotionally but communicatively. There's a simple yet powerful principle to remember. Abandon sincere communication when communicating with the terminally insincere. You are not morally obligated to remain honest or transparent with someone whose entire mode of interaction is built on deceit. Continuing to seek truth in a conversation with a liar is like searching for clarity in a fog. They will always thicken it to keep you lost. Their objective is not dialogue. It is emotional provocation. To visualize this, imagine the narcissist as a cloud of nanobots in a sci-fi horror film. This swarm can morph into any shape, any face, any form that elicits a specific emotional response from its victim: terror, guilt, despair. In real life, their transformations are psychological rather than physical. They shift personas, tones, and narratives to elicit anguish. Their power thrives on your confusion and the inescapable sense of distress they create. When the narcissist senses that you might awaken to their manipulation, They rarely turn up the heat to unbearable levels. Instead, they simmer you slowly, keeping you in a perpetual state of emotional anguish rather than outright terror. If they push too hard, if you reach full-blown panic or horror, you might snap out of their control and walk away. They understand this instinctively. So, rather than shocking you into escape, they boil you softly, using a steady rhythm of confusion, guilt, and exhaustion until you no longer resist. Once you're worn down, once you've surrendered to their version of reality, they can finally colonize your psyche, and that's when true enslavement begins. Psychologists often describe this process as slow conditioning, a form of trauma bonding in which the victim's nervous system becomes addicted to the cycle of tension and release. The narcissist, like a parasite, studies your emotional ecosystem and learns precisely how to keep you in a state of painful dependence. Their cruelty is not always loud or spectacular. It is calculated. They understand that anguish is more sustainable than fear. Fear repels, but anguish binds. And so, with the patience of a scientist and the cruelty of a sadist, they shape your emotions until resistance feels impossible. To understand this dynamic, picture the chilling metaphor. A cloud of nanobots, a swarm of tiny, intelligent machines capable of transforming into any shape necessary to provoke a specific emotional reaction. The narcissist functions in much the same way. They can become the victim, the hero, the lover, or the enemy. Whatever form ensures your reaction remains intense. Their only real goal is the same as that fictional swarm's: to keep you reacting, to keep you emotionally alive just enough to feed their hunger. And once you stop reacting, they lose power. Recognizing that every manipulation is designed to provoke a reaction leads us to the most essential survival skill: reducing emotional reactivity. Psychologists emphasize that this isn't about suppressing emotions. It's about reclaiming control of your nervous system. To break free, you must stop giving the narcissist the energy they crave. The first and most painful step in doing this is deceptively simple: give up hope. Hope in a normal relationship is a bridge toward healing. But with a narcissist, hope becomes the chain that binds you. Many victims, especially co-parents, cling to the belief that one day the narcissist will wake up, become a better parent, and finally provide stability for their children. Yet, as trauma therapists often remind their clients, you cannot grieve and hope at the same time. Hope keeps you in emotional motion, always waiting for something that will never arrive. Grief, on the other hand, anchors you in reality. When you grieve the fantasy of who the narcissist will never be, you begin to reclaim your strength. As you release hope, you also begin the process of emotional withdrawal. Stop fueling the fire. Use what psychologists call the gray rock method, a strategy rooted in emotional neutrality. Become dull, uninteresting, unreactive. Respond with short, factual statements. If you must text, keep it brief. If you must talk, keep it minimal. The less emotional oxygen you provide, the faster their manipulation starves. Remember, anything you say, especially about your feelings, can and will be weaponized. The narcissist records every emotional confession and stores it for later use. That's why one of the most common therapy mistakes, according to experts in narcissistic abuse recovery, is encouraging honest emotional sharing with an abuser. In healthy relationships, transparency heals. In toxic ones, it kills. When you say, "You make me sad when you do this," you're not building understanding. You're handing them a blueprint of your weaknesses. For a narcissist, reconciliation is not peace. It's death. The moment true understanding is reached, their entire psychological game collapses. They would rather keep the conflict alive forever than lose control through resolution. Therefore, stop seeking closure from them. Stop hoping for the apology that will never come. Instead, practice silence, detachment, and observation. Withdraw into your own space, where emotional safety can begin to regrow. Psychologically, this stage marks the slow rebuilding of boundaries, the invisible membrane that defines where you end and they begin. Imagine yourself as a single-celled organism, an amoeba surrounded by a delicate membrane. Inside you exist nutrients, love, empathy, creativity, time. Outside lies waste, resentment, deceit, cruelty. In healthy relationships, the boundary keeps the good in and the poison out. But when a narcissist enters your life, they pierce that membrane. They dig, manipulate, gaslight, and provoke until cracks appear in your emotional structure. Through those openings, your vitality leaks out. Your time, your patience, your trust. While their toxins seep in, shame, confusion, and hate. Psychologists call this process psychic trauma, the invisible twin of physical injury. Just as a broken bone leaves you fragile, a fractured psyche leaves you permeable. Healing begins when you acknowledge the breaks and start sealing them. This means solitude, therapy, boundaries, and sometimes grieving the person you thought you knew. Recovery doesn't mean fixing the narcissist. It means reconstructing the self they tried to dissolve. And so, as the swarm of emotional nanobots fades into silence, what remains is not weakness, but awareness. You learn that survival doesn't come from fighting their illusions. It comes from refusing to play the game at all. When a narcissist enters your inner world, they don't just occupy space. They infect it. Slowly, subtly, they pour their own venom into your emotional bloodstream. Their bitterness, their envy, their cruelty, their hunger for control. Over time, you begin to mirror them. Your expressions twist with their anger. Your tone echoes their impatience. Even your thoughts begin to vibrate at their frequency. This is what psychologists call psychological colonization, a process where the abuser invades the psyche of the victim until the victim begins to lose the boundaries of who they once were. You begin to forget where you end and they begin. And once this fusion takes root, the task ahead becomes both sacred and excruciating. To rebuild your emotional walls. That is what healing truly means. Not patching the relationship, but sealing the fractures of your own psyche. This process begins with the hardest truth of all. You must give up hope. Hope in this context is not light, it's a chain. Keeps you orbiting around the illusion that one day they'll understand, they'll apologize, they'll change. But they won't. Letting go of hope means opening the door to grief, despair, and eventually liberation. As you cry, rage, or collapse under the weight of disillusionment, you are not breaking down. You are breaking free. The philosopher Soren Kierkegaard once described despair as a necessary passageway, a divine rupture that reveals when a person has fallen out of alignment with their essence. While he used spiritual language, modern psychology echoes this idea. Despair signals that you've been living in dissonance with your authentic self. In a narcissistic relationship, you've abandoned your values, your peace, and your truth just to maintain the illusion of harmony. Despair, then, is your psyche's rebellion. It is the soul's way of saying, I cannot live like this anymore. You must embrace it, not as an enemy, but as the signal that it's time to return to yourself. Returning to yourself, however, demands one final surrender. You must release them completely. Stop trying to fix them, to redeem them, to understand them. You cannot heal a wound by clinging to the knife. As long as you're focused on the narcissist, you remain trapped in their orbit. Close your walls, shut the gates, and begin rebuilding from within. This emotional reconstruction is the antidote to the colonization process. To understand why it's so unbearably hard to let go, psychologist Sam Vaknin offers a theory that has changed how experts view narcissistic abuse: the dual mothership model. In this dynamic, both individuals unconsciously enter a bond of co-idealization, a psychological fusion where each person becomes both parent and child to the other. The narcissist first idealizes you, flooding you with adoration and worship. You feel seen, cherished, and chosen. Then, without realizing it, you idealize them in return, placing them on a pedestal as the source of validation and emotional safety. This mutual adoration quickly becomes addictive. Beneath the surface, though, something more sinister is happening. The narcissist's love is not unconditional. It's transactional. They feed on your reactions, your praise, your fear, your devotion. All of it becomes narcissistic supply. You, meanwhile, are drawn deeper into their emotional gravity, mistaking intensity for intimacy. Over time, the relationship stops being two adults in partnership and transforms into a parent-child simulation, where boundaries dissolve and roles blur beyond recognition. Vaknin calls this simulation the shared fantasy, a psychological illusion that feels real but exists only inside their control. Within this fantasy, The narcissist promises you unconditional love, the kind that feels maternal, all-forgiving, infinite. And in return, you become their caretaker, their emotional mother, endlessly soothing, forgiving, and repairing. Gender is irrelevant. This is not about roles but about psychic regression. Both of you are pulled into an emotional dimension where you are no longer two adults relating. You are two wounded children reenacting each other's unmet needs. This is why leaving a narcissist feels less like ending a relationship and more like being torn from a parent. When you finally walk away, the pain that follows isn't just heartbreak. It's psychological separation anxiety. Your nervous system interprets the loss as abandonment on a primal level. You're not losing a partner. You're losing the illusion of safety, the emotional mother you thought would finally soothe your pain. And with that loss comes guilt, a guilt so visceral it feels spiritual. Many survivors describe this phase as an impossible paradox. I know they're toxic, but I still feel like I've betrayed them. That guilt is the residue of the child within you still yearning for reconciliation. Psychologically, it is the mind's desperate attempt to preserve the attachment at all costs. Trauma therapists warn that this is the most dangerous moment, because guilt can lure you back into the cycle of abuse. And this is why standard therapy advice: be honest, express your feelings, seek resolution, fails so catastrophically here. Narcissistic relationships do not operate in adult logic. They are emotional inversions. Every healthy rule reverses. Empathy becomes fuel. Honesty becomes ammunition. Closure becomes impossible. Within this shared fantasy, the narcissist is not your partner. They are your captor. To escape, you must do the unthinkable. Grieve a living person as if they were dead. Mourn the illusion, cry for the love that never truly existed, and allow yourself to descend into despair, because despair, paradoxically, is the doorway back to wholeness. Only by surrendering to that abyss can you begin to reclaim the light that was always yours. That unbearable ache you feel, that's guilt. The kind that doesn't just sting but consumes. Why? Because walking away from a narcissist isn't like ending a romance. It's like a mother abandoning her child. That's what your nervous system believes, and that's why every instinct in your body resists. You'll hear a desperate echo inside your head repeating like a mantra: I can't give up on them. I mustn't give up on them. I have to keep trying. But this compulsion, this guilt-soaked loyalty, is the very mechanism that keeps you trapped. What you must actually do to survive, to reclaim your soul, is precisely what feels most impossible. To grieve them as though they were gone, to collapse, cry, scream, despair, to allow the pain to tear through you until it empties itself out. Only then can you walk away. This agony exists because you've been drawn into the co-idealization process of what Sam Vaknin calls the dual mothership, a psychological merging so deep that it distorts your sense of reality. You've entered a world that doesn't play by human rules, a kind of psychological alternate dimension where logic bends and emotional gravity reverses. It's not your world anymore. It's their world, their design, their illusion, a virtual reality of dependency and control. When you stepped into their orbit, something extraordinary yet toxic occurred. Both of you unconsciously took on the role of mother and child to one another. You nurtured them, healed them, forgave them endlessly. In return, they offered you fragments of idealized love, moments so intoxicating they felt divine. Together, you created a mutual delusion, a simulation, what Vaknin and psychoanalyst Sander describe as the shared fantasy. It's like slipping into a matrix pod, taking the blue pill, and being sustained through an emotional feeding tube of narcissistic supply. Inside that fantasy, you are no longer living your own life. You are living theirs. You already know this feeling. You've sensed the unreality of it all, as though you've been wandering through a dream where nothing quite makes sense. You catch yourself saying and doing things that the real you would never say, never do. You sense your boundaries dissolving, yet you stay, hypnotized by guilt and fear. Deep down, you know this connection is corroding your spirit, but the idea of leaving feels like tearing out your own heart. And that is the terrible paradox. The only way to heal is to destroy the fantasy that binds you to them. You must shatter the illusion you built together, even if that illusion once felt like home. You must become, metaphorically, the mother who finally lets the child go, and then face the tidal wave of emotion that follows. Because if you don't, the fantasy won't die. It will live on inside you. Even if you never speak to them again, the psychic connection remains active, humming quietly beneath the surface of your mind, waiting to reattach itself to the next narcissist who comes along. The shared fantasy is not just an emotional memory, it's a living structure. Imagine it as a psychic bridge between two people, invisible but indestructible, unless it is consciously dismantled. To break it, you must stop feeding it with attention, stop fantasizing about closure, stop replaying their validation and their cruelty in your head. Every thought of them is a line of code keeping the simulation alive. The fantasy dies only when you withdraw your energy and refuse to let them exist inside your emotional landscape. This destruction isn't graceful. It's brutal, raw, and often slow. It can take months of inner warfare to finally silence the echo of their presence. But it's worth every tear, every sleepless night, every scream muffled into a pillow, because what you are killing is not love, but a parasite masquerading as connection. So yes, it's hard. It will feel like dying before it feels like living again. But the day you wake up and realize you no longer crave their validation, that is the day you are reborn. That's the work. That's the freedom. And that's why the path out of narcissistic abuse always begins with a single, devastating truth. You must let them go completely, or you will never be free.